Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with a tea ready to go. Talk a little bit about the origin of this tea. It is Indonesia, which is kind of an old, new place for tea. Explain a little bit more about that. Got to scoop out enough here. Let me actually move this out of the way. The reason there's two packages. This particular sample came with an external package with a zip top enclosure. But inside that it was vacuum sealed to keep it fresher longer until it was open. And then once it's open, that's when you want to use the zip top. So I scooped out enough with my spoon here, and I want just a little bit more to cover the bottom inch to inch and a half diameter of my 3-ounce gaiwan. Water has been, as usual, brought to an early boil, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 190 to 200 degrees. As far as temperature goes. Enough water. I want a little bit of water to rest above the rim of my lid when I put it on. I want my leaves to all get tucked underneath the surface of the water so you don't have partially dry leaves floating on the top. It helps it infuse. It helps you steep a little more evenly. So while that is steeping, introduce this tea. I'll use this package because the label's a little clearer here. This is from PT Harendong. This is their organic black tea. PT Harendong is in Indonesia, which Indonesia was one of the early places like that the Dutch and other Europeans, particularly the Dutch, would go for trade in tea. You didn't hear a lot about Indonesia as far as tea imports into the U.S. until recently, and particularly with people like, or companies like PT Harendong. This particular tea, or PT Harendong teas, are often listed on Tealet, TEALET.com. I do not recall seeing this one recently, but maybe things have been updated on Tealet to find this or other PT Harendongs on Tealet. Find out information about PT Harendong itself. It'd be best just to go to their company website to find out more about this particular tea or other teas that they have. So, having said that, let's get into this tea, the dry leaf aspect, the wet leaf, and the liquor. Starting off here with the dry. Some aromas, light aromas coming off there. Let me kind of puff on this with some warm air. Wake it up a little bit. Warm, woody notes, and they're quite soft at this point. When you have a tea that's been vacuum sealed, like this one has, it can be to its advantage to open up, let it breathe for a while being hours up to a day or two. Sometimes that breathing time, the moisture of the air coming back into the tea helps kind of waken that tea up as far as the aromas go. Light wood notes coming off, and this is sweet woods. Oh, there's something that's kind of freshly or wood that has been kind of lightly varnished. So you get a bit of the wood smell, you get a bit of the natural, say a more natural varnish, not a harsh chemical varnish, but a nice polished wood kind of smell going on here. So set that well. I should get into a little bit of the leaves and take those out. You'll notice that these are not like, say, a Chinese black tea, an Indian, Kenyan, that may be just leaf portions or sections wrapped or twisted along the length of that leaf. These are balled, rolled, like a Taiwanese oolong or a tea guanyin, but they look to be oxidized more thoroughly, so that you get these more deep, dark copper, milk chocolate brown, bister type colors, which are the bister, I would say, is the most dominant. Looking at the leaf, these ball sizes, they look to be individual leaves, although there are some stem pieces here and there, indicating that some of these, and at this glance, I would say 20% or less are more than one leaf. But we'll see if that holds true in the wet leaf as well. So I'm going to set this to the side, get into the wet leaf by first pouring, angle my lid to the side, middle finger and thumb holding the bowl, index finger keeps the lid in place. I want a narrow opening so leaves or leaf portions don't slip through. But you need enough airflow so that you get a nice, smooth, even pour. That worked out well. Now let me give this a shake and let those leaves kind of settle back down to the bottom and be able to smell them a little better. Again, woody, sweet wood notes. Freshly cut oak, maple, some of that sweetness coming out there. Baked notes coming off. Freshly baked bread also. As it cools and those wood notes drop off, you get a bit more of the wild grapevine. You get some of the raisiny notes starting to pick up. Quite nice. Again, warm, sweet notes that I often get with some of the more heavily oxidized oolongs, which suggests that this black tea was made, and of course the processing suggests this as well, that this is an oolong that has been more fully oxidized to create, actually an oolong variety that has been oxidized more to create a black tea. Okay, so pulling out a leaf here, couple to 3 inches in length, quite ragged. It's got holes in it. The edges are not intact. It's split down the middle a little bit, and that often happens with the shaking, the bruising, the tumbling, the heat that's applied to these leaves to get them to the state that they are in, the flavor profile, the character that's desired. Here's a leaf that probably is not intact. It hasn't fully unfurled, so it's been rolled kind of fairly tightly. And that whole rolling process of creating a tightly balled oolong also puts a lot of strain, pressure on the leaves as well. Another one here that has not fully unfurled, which bodes well that this is a tea that does not give away everything in the first steep. Glancing through, randomly picking up, again, in this case, I would say, more than 60% are individual leaves. So that would be, might back that original number down to say 20 or 30, closer to 20%, 25 maybe, of leaf pairs. Okay, so let me give this a swirl. Talk a little bit about this liquor now. Amber, deep amber type color, close approaching maple syrup amber type colors there, dark ambers. Okay, give that a pour. Still the wood notes, woody, sweet wood, the raisiny notes. Again, maybe a little bit of sweet fallen autumn leaves there as well. So let's give it a taste, see how that goes. This has this, again, more indication that this is a Taiwanese oolong type of tea variety that's getting used to create this black tea. It's got some of those kind of sweet raisin. It's got, again, that sweet wood, that wild grapevine, that autumn leaf, that raisin combined component there. Let me let this cool off a little bit. Taiwanese oolongs, as they cool, a lot of times their profile gets a little more complex. Some aromas start to stand out that weren't present before. Moving over towards some of that Oriental beauty, brandy, cognac kind of taste there as well. Texture-wise, it's a bit light, it's a bit thin, so it's got a kind of a thick mineral water kind of aspect to the texture there. Aftertaste resides in that kind of starchy, pulpy wood pulp, kind of having a wood chip in your mouth that's you're chewing on, a wet toothpick in your mouth. Those kind of tastes are there, and that kind of starchy aspect is there. Underneath that kind of that's falling away now a little bit in the aftertaste, and you're getting more of the sweetness there. A little bit of a kind of a roasted, baked peach, a bit of that raisin type aspect there. Again, it's soft. It's in the back. It sits lower between my jaw and my Adam's apple. That's kind of where that taste seems to be resonating from. So this tea as a whole, it's got some oolong components. It's got some Oriental beauty components. Some of the aromas are a bit stronger and more towards a black tea type of aspect. So that's interesting as well. How would there aren't a lot of Indonesian blacks that are available and done in this way. So I would give this one, it's kind of on its own, but I would give this one a 90. Some nice components. It would, based on what other Taiwanese oolongs can do, I think there's a little bit more wiggle room as far as pushing this one up a few notches in its aspects to draw even more out of it. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find teas that you can draw more out of in the way that you steep it, the way that you taste it. Subscribe to the newsletter so that you can get tea reviews delivered directly into your inbox. Subscribe also to the member content, where you can find out more in-depth articles on teas from Indonesia and beyond.